how are you today?
Ginger, here we are again with Apostolos Midwives.
Yep, we
See
just
ya.
are. We're on a roll. We will have done what, maybe 7 or 8.
Right. This will be our 8th, right?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, and our followers are growing. More people are
Yes,
finding out
thanks.
about us.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for
Yeah,
listening and thanks for subscribing.
definitely, definitely.
Keep us coming. Keep making it possible.
Yeah. So our routine listeners know that we always start with new news, which is a very popular topic with a lot of people, and this is a blend, Denise, of old news but rapidly growing new news.
I knew you'd come up with something.
It fits in really well with today's topic, which is going to focus on contracts. And contracts are sort of the voice around how folks are paid and how much they work. And there's a lot of anger going on those two topics right now in the midwife workforce.
Yeah, yes. I
So,
believe that. Money talks, right?
money talks. And so, shy of individual negotiation, which we're going to focus on today, is this thing called unionizing.
Oh, bring it.
Bring
Bring it.
it.
I've been reading a lot about it.
Oh my gosh, it's dropping everywhere. And
Mhm.
in the last month, but definitely in the last week, the Kaiser Permanente midwives and nurses resolved their issues in California after quite a long strike. The New York State Nurses Association in Bronx with midwives, even the education program midwives.
Wow.
University of Michigan at Sparrow are beginning union negotiations now. We know that the University of Illinois, midwifery and midwives are in negotiations for the first time ever. We know that Oregon Health Sciences just completed union negotiations for the first time. It is rolling out everywhere.
Well, it's doing something then.
And,
I think it's
we
a
get
good
a lot
idea.
of questions from people like, is this good or bad for being a healthcare provider? What does this mean to your patients if you go on strike? Do you ever get to really speak out in your own voice? Does it really make a difference? And are you losing rights versus gaining rights? I don't have a lot of answers, to be honest with you.
Okay. All right. Well, I've wondered some of those same things. So, at some point we'll have to do an assessment with all the groups that have unionized and kind of come
Yeah,
up with some answers.
I think it's another topic similar to what we've talked with another guest before with the TEMA grants and all the midwives sort of reaching out on state TEMA grant issues. Is this issue of state, it tends to be state nursing associations picking up the APPs and the midwives for bringing them into the union fold, and it is rapidly evolving. There's a sociologist at UCSF who's doing a formal research project on this topic. And
Oh,
I looked today before we joined to see if, nothing's published yet. She's probably still in data analysis, but she talked to me a little bit and was interviewing as many midwives as she could around the country on this issue.
wow.
It
Well, that
does,
is my alma mater for midwifery
yeah.
school. So
I mean, it has a lot of sociological implications.
I believe that this will be interesting research to hear them.
Yeah. So that's the new news without a great answer, other than if folks are starting that journey, we can connect you. I mean, we know a lot of folks who are engaged in the negotiation process that we're happy to just sort of be the network funnel without the answers.
It would be
Uh,
good to have a toolkit for that.
yeah, definitely. So
Great.
that's going to move us into introducing our guest, which I'm going to try to figure out how much I want to say and how much I want to leave out, because as I left the teaser, I think in this morning's podcast, we are honored to have someone who's a lawyer who's known about midwifery since the moment he was born in the hands of a midwife. And so Isaac Booth, who also has a middle name of Breedlove, happens to be my fourth son. And we're very, very proud of Isaac's academic accomplishments and his interests over his lifetime, and really has stepped into the Grow Midwives team to help our clients who are seeking help understanding sort of the scholastic and kind of the issues involved in employment contracts. Denise,
Welcome, Isaac.
do you have anything you want to say about him?
You know what? I think, well, I'll just say this. I will never forget the day I applied for midwifery school, um, because it was the day that Isaac was born. So on March in 25. So
Yeah.
that will always stick in my mind. It's a lovely long story, but that's my connection to, yeah, who remembers when they applied to midwifery school? I do.
There you go.
So welcome, Isaac. It's very nice to have you here and to have watch you grown up and, become who you are today.
Yeah,
I like that you're a
Thank you.
midwifery advocate.
I know.
Comes with the
Love it.
household.
Right.
So, Isaac, what might help folks understand is sort of your journey, your educational journey, and sort of your journey into helping grow midwives as we get into some of the topics on contracts.
Um, I think my story is pretty simple. Um, I grew up hearing the conversation. I then got more context for the conversation. I marched for the conversation, and then I analyzed for the conversation. Now I'm talking for the conversation. I've sort of been in the background of the conversation forever. I've done the recording of the videos for all the organizations. I've helped produce them. I've helped ads. I've helped try to communicate with people at a different age range.
Mhm.
I think it's just I'm doing the same thing I've always done, and it's just in a slightly more impactful way.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yes.
think what you're going to bring to this conversation, Isaac, is maybe an age relatable conversation in terms of uh, younger people entering the profession, some of the issues going on in society today, job stability, um, and how you blend that with sort of what you believe in, and
Yeah.
how you make it all sort of fit. So why don't we start with Denise and I on the last podcast talked about I can't remember the exact title, but it had to do with sort of evaluating the job offer.
Right.
Sort of,
Elements
Yeah.
of the job offer and
yeah.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to sort of naturally flow into, okay, you saw the offer, you went through the interviews, and wow, Denise now has a job offer in front of her. And I just talked to somebody today before we did the podcast who told me she used Chat GPT to
Mhm.
analyze her contract, which was pretty simple. It was a 2-page offer letter. That was all she was
okay.
going to get.
Mhm.
And it came back basically saying it was a horrible agreement and didn't tell her
Wow.
anything else. To which she decided to reach out and we had a coaching session because there
Yeah.
was really no contract. But, why don't you talk to people about the range of things they see between an offer letter and a contract at a high level?
I'd say the first thing I want to say is that I'm not anybody here's lawyer or anybody's listening's lawyer. It's not legal advice; it's more legal education that we're going for here. And in any review, that's the same thing. We don't give specific, or at least I don't give specific. Go for this number. Here's how I would get it. I give I would negotiate this, and here's some things I've seen from other people, maybe, but that's sort of the lane we'll keep to. And I can spin hypotheticals all day long. Don't worry about that. But if I give specific advice, I just don't want to have 100 or 500 clients tomorrow. That
Yeah.
would be really awkward.
Yeah.
The difference between a full contract, if you want to think of it that way, I think it's just a contract, or an offer letter. I think the easiest way to think about it is the offer letter is not the full agreement. The offer letter is typically whatever terms that the generally the employer finds the most important or the biggest deal breakers is sort of a flawed but different way to think about it. But the goal there is to basically, you were talking about how to value your contract in different parts of the contract. And I'd really encourage people to see every single section in the contract as its own little part. And it really every word, but it's easier to think in sections as its own part with its own due consideration. So the fact that you allow them to take over your billing is something of value to them. That's why it's in the contract.
Right.
If you allow them to pay or not pay for your insurance, that's consideration that goes either way. And consideration is the legal term for value in a contract. So when you have an offer letter and it takes care of the most baseline, the most important terms, what you're really doing is you're negotiating most of the consideration away before you've gotten to a lot of the employee forward looking clauses or opportunities. So it's going to be really hard to negotiate later when you have less of a quiver of arrows to,
Yeah.
hold hostage against the other person.
One of the things, Isaac, before you go on, is like in the case of this person today, all she was getting was the offer letter.
Yeah.
2 pages.
Yeah.
And is that a contract?
Well, as with every answer for any legal question, the answer is it depends. I hear Arden's been picking up the standard. The answer is it depends. The shortest version, really, it depends because you have to look at every time one of these happens. But the shortest version is if they paid money or if you paid money or they paid money in return for you signing it, or if you signed it in return for something else, then it is at that point binding. So, for instance, let's say they give you an offer letter and it's got all the basic terms. It's got the term, salary. We won't do this. We might do that. That type, whatever. We're going to be vague. You sign it, and then you get the full agreement, and the full agreement's got a bunch of things that you don't like. You can't change any of those previous terms. So long as you're bound to whatever was in that offer letter. And once again, it depends on how that offer letter is formatted, whether or not you're already going to the job, but you can only negotiate a limited amount of things now, or if you can then still decline
the
work for
But
it.
there are people, Isaac, that don't get another piece of paper. They don't get a contract. And that could be good. There's typically not a non-compete. There's not a non-disparagement. There's no confidentiality. There's not a lot in those. And they reference handbooks and policy manuals.
It's a step away from order to chaos, and that's better for some and worse for some. It really depends on who and where and what you're wanting to do. If you're like a researcher who wants absolutely no control from the place that you're working at because you've got a bigger thing going on, that might be better for you.
Yeah.
Right. I do have a question, Isaac. So if you sign an offer letter and then there's different components, disparities between the offer letter and a follow-up contract, which one is the one that will be held up?
So that's a really specific question. The answer, of course, depends. But the way it shakes out generally is if you've got consideration for that original offer letter. So let's say, let's just change the example to something more easier to understand. Let's say they paid you as a result of this offer letter, we're giving you a $10,000 sign-on bonus. So that's payment for signing the offer letter. That means there's consideration both ways. It's an agreement. You both signed it with, full cognizance, whole thing. That means at that point it's binding on both parties. Okay. So generally the way that works is that means whatever terms are in the offer letter can no longer be negotiated by either side. Now, the contract could, of course, say, hey, we can change it to whatever we want when we want. But if it doesn't, generally that means that those terms specifically and only those terms are already set. So when you go and get your full contract, you can still negotiate anything else that wasn't in the offer letter. It's just harder because you have less things to bargain
But
with.
what if they don't pay you until 1 year after you've worked for them? They haven't given you any money. Here's the
I
deal.
really don't even know what that means.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't get a sign-on bonus when they get there. It's deferred.
Yeah, no, but it
There is
doesn't
no
really,
money exchange.
right. It doesn't, the commitment to give money, so long as it is legally binding, is
Okay.
still in
Okay.
consideration.
So one of the
You
things we've been telling people, Isaac, is thank the person for the offer letter, that you're
Yeah.
very excited to discuss with them terms of the agreement, and you will be willing to go forward once you see the contract, but not
Mhm.
to negotiate with them with an offer letter.
Yeah, it's each person's personal choice. I'm sure some people who would be able to argue quite eloquently the benefits of using an offer letter. They'll say things like, it gets rid of the clutter, it makes
Yeah,
everything faster, it's the things you
yeah,
really care about,
it's
and
not.
it really, well, yeah, exactly. It really it really depends on what you care about, right?
But when you
Um,
don't know what to care about, you think that you're
well, yeah.
trapped in signing an offer letter, and you haven't seen the four corners of a contract to know what all you can leverage.
Oh yeah, I
And
personally would very much not like to sign an offer letter that removes almost all my negotiating power when
okay,
going to things that I care about.
okay.
But there are some
Is there
people that,
any is there any like weight with a verbal acceptance of an offer
yeah,
moving into then a written contract? Because I think a lot of people might affirm that they're going to take the offer but haven't signed anything. So what does that look like
uh, we're
theoretically,
yeah,
hypothetically?
we're in very vague it depends land. There's a bunch of tests going on there to try and figure out if like a vocal acceptance of a contract has some rules around it, like you can't do over a certain time, you can't do over a certain amount of money. There's certain agreements you just can't make vocally, but there are lots more than people would expect that you can do vocally or on a napkin at a bar. I mean, it really, the world is your oyster. Unless you're accepting something, you shouldn't say I accept. The general rule for vocal acceptance is if there was like a third party person watching this conversation
Mm,
and they're a reasonable person and they watch the conversation happen, would they think you accepted? If
okay.
the answer is yes, then you probably accepted. If the answer is no, then you probably didn't. And that's what the court's going to do. And everybody's just going to yell at each other trying to see what that third person would have seen.
Well,
Yeah,
that's very helpful.
yeah.
Thank you.
So, Isaac, you've seen a lot of contracts now.
Uh huh.
If you could pick out the top three things that have concerned you as a reader that just sort of make you go, "Oh my God, what are they doing to these midwives?" Does could you come up with some?
That's a really hard question. Um, do you mean in terms of the legal writing or the content or the effect? Like,
Like the
Mm,
effect of what could happen to them. Like, I'll give you an example, and this actually happened in this contract with this offer today. The payback clause. If you do
oh
not stay X amount of time, we're going to take your
mm,
yeah,
salary and charge you.
yeah, those are pretty weird. Uh,
Harsh.
well,
Harsh.
I say weird because I'm trying not to give a personal opinion. I'm trying not to give like a value opinion.
Okay.
But I'll say the worst things I've seen are things similar to that, like liquidated damages clauses,
Yeah.
meaning that whenever you break a restrictive covenant, I'm sure we'll talk about them more later. But if you break a non-compete, you break a non-solicitation, you break a non-disparagement, one of or some of those, then you have to pay X amount. And that X amount exists for a really actually good reason in reality, which
Yeah.
is that it is basically impossible to calculate the value of a non-compete
Yeah.
because it depends on how important you are, what access you had, where you could go, who you're competing against, the amount of things happening in that area, like the general economic trends. It's just impossible. So liquidated damages are there to allow ideally both parties, but really the employer to put a hard number down that a judge can say, yeah, that's reasonable, or yeah, that could have been reasonable, or no, it's unreasonable, and they'll lower it.
Yeah.
But liquidated damages of like 3 years salary I've seen
Right. Right.
is
Right.
like antithetical to everything
The one I
ever.
saw today was $200 per day that they did not fulfill the term of the agreement.
Well, that's an interesting one. That's a lot more reasonable than 3 years salary for a potential breach. That's
Yeah.
another thing is they'll start using words like instead of actually having the breach happen,
Yeah.
they'll say a thing we thought could have happened. We'll
We
charge
just
you that.
decided. We decided.
Well, it's not you. If you say they just decided, that intuits some level of fraud, which is a legal conclusion, which I can't do.
Oh,
But but when the contract says that we can just guess, and if we're wrong, you still, in combination with things like
yeah.
attorneys' costs and fees agreements,
Yes. Yes.
where they say, the general baseline is the prevailing party,
Right.
meaning whoever wins gets their side bankrolled for whatever it costs.
Yeah.
Basically, that's the short version,
Yeah.
which already is weird because the employer has a lot more money to play around with, and their risk is dispersed. So already it's a weird thing to agree to, but it's sort of like common in America. But there are agreements that have that the provider, the employee, has to pay no matter what to enforce the agreement, the employer's costs and fees. And the real worry there is that could cost conceivably more than that 3 year salary liquidated damages I just
Yeah.
said.
Correct.
Because there is no limit to the amount of lawyers they can hire. There is no limit to the amount of expert opinions. Like if a judge sees you going crazy, they might get mad on your behalf, on an employee's behalf, and say, "No, that's just insane." But also, they might not,
Right.
because there are certain portions of the country where the term Ginger said before, the four corners of the agreement is taken a lot more seriously than in others. There are some
Mm,
places in the country that if it is in the four corners, unless it is absolutely unconscionable, if it, the literal term is shocks the conscious, unless it is not shockingly bad, then they will not change anything. And even if they do change anything, there are clauses that say you can't remove this whole part. You only limit it to what is not shocking, not
Yeah.
what's reasonable, not what's good, to what is not shocking.
So let's move to another one. And all of these have monetary implications that can be sizable.
Mhm. Yeah.
Midwives who don't understand medical liability protection and clauses that are vague at best, some specific but few, that could mean you pay tail, but you don't really have any clarity on understanding much about the policy at all.
Yeah, I don't really get that either. Um,
That
because
a physician would never agree to those kinds of vague statements.
yeah, I don't really get it either. I would say if you're being generous, what they're doing is they're saying, insurance is hard and we don't really know what we're planning to do. So trust
Yeah.
me, bro, we'll
Yeah.
take care of you. Is sort of
mhm.
what
Yeah.
most of those are saying. I don't really take trust me bros too seriously as a lawyer. Um, that's why, I mean, my recommendation every time is ask for whatever policy they have now, because that gives you a pretty good idea of, you should get the same thing. They're all basically group negotiating these things. There's no way to
Right.
do it. And if they're planning on changing a policy, to ask them what they're thinking about getting in the future. And if they're not including any details in your contract about what the policy currently is, that's probably because of what I was just saying.
Yeah.
They're ready and willing to move their policy to another vendor or for another amount or to change things. And what they don't want to do is have to rewrite all their midwifery contracts
Yeah.
anytime
Mm,
they're contemplating changing anything.
Right.
So it can be vague in the contract, and that can be bad because it
yeah.
can be taken advantage of, but it can also be good because it gives the employer a little bit more flexibility and you can just ask. So I would recommend before signing an agreement, if it says we will provide you insurance, just ask. Just be, hey, what's your policy? Thank you. And they'll probably hand it to you. There's nothing really devastating about doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good idea. That's a great idea, actually.
The next one is non-competes. And let's say Denise is, moving halfway across the country back to California. She rented an apartment or bought a home. Aren't you rich? And and wants to stay there. She's got a house payment she's making and blah, 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 and leaves. And there's a 2-year non-compete for a 30-mile radius of any hospital or practice that she worked at, practicing in any role of clinical role she's currently in. That could be a really financial challenge for people. San Francisco is a very condensed city for healthcare services.
Yeah. I agree.
Any
I don't think
thoughts
there's
on how to negotiate those?
Oh yeah. I would say my number one little tip for these non-competes is there's not an awful lot of hospitals in any given area. So if you read your contract and it says it's an X mile radius, I would go to Google Maps and I
Mm-hmm.
would say, how many miles away are the next hospitals?
Yeah.
And see, does it cover it? Does it cover one? Does it cover, let's say there are three. Does it cover all three?
Yeah.
Um, that would be the first thing I would do is see what am I actually prevented from doing in reality, not what is spooky.
Yeah.
The next thing is, does it cover all the hospitals, most of the hospitals, some of the hospitals is a really big difference because then you may or may not have to move.
Yeah.
In negotiating them, they're very aware of this. They wrote it with that in mind, right?
Right.
They went, who's our biggest competitor?
Right.
How many miles away is it? Let's
Right.
do at least that, guys. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
So they're very aware. So that might be harder to negotiate. Something I think people really, to their own detriment, don't even contemplate negotiating it, or what are you not competing in?
Yeah.
So more and more of these contracts are starting to say like any services provided for the employer. That's pretty easy to understand, but it's also really broad. If you taught a day for your employer, can you no longer teach in that 30-mile area?
Yeah. Good point.
If you did general medical things, like you attended their free clinic that doesn't have to deal with OBGYN stuff, are you then barred from doing regular clinical medical duties? You can negotiate all that. Every part of that, every duty that you're giving away is due consideration.
Yeah.
Um,
So there was a post in the last week on a discussion board, and non-competes came up, and someone said, to which I qualified, non-competes are non-enforceable.
Yeah, I read that one.
Well, it depends. There's been a big, I say it playfully, but it is always the answer. There have been successive administrations, there have been presidents, there have been, union leaders, employment leaders. People really dislike non-competes, especially for professional activities.
Yep.
Lawyers generally, not people really don't like doing non-competes for that. Doctors, it's generally like, at least legally, ethically seen as a really bad thing to have non-competes because there's not a lot of those people.
Yeah.
And there are not a lot of places where those people can do their thing. And it costs a lot of societal money and time to get those people to be able to do those things. And if you're already at a shortage of all of those things, it's really not great. So there have been successive administrations, political parties, pushes to get rid of or at least limit non-competes pretty drastically. And they have been. There's states that say that you can't do non-competes.
There's about 3 to 5 from what we've looked at.
Yeah.
But Biden's bill for eliminating all of them was ferociously fought by the American Hospital Association because the hospitals own about 70% of the physician workforce.
Right.
And they don't want their docs going across the street to the competing hospitals.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's where the like expansion, so the shrinking of the non-compete has resulted in the expansion of the non-solicit.
Yeah.
Is sort of how it's gone. And so it's gone from you cannot go and compete against me to you can't leave and then undercut me in some way, which is,
Right.
if we're being honest, what they're really worried about in the first place.
Yeah.
What they're
Right.
really worried about is, Dr. Jim is beloved in Hospital
Right.
Greenridge. And then he leaves Greenridge to go to Blackridge. And Jim goes, hey, all my 50 patient, 100 patient roster, I'm over here now. Come
Right.
with me because it's better over here. That's what they're really worried about. They're
Sure.
not as much worried about Jim's excellent medical skills going to
Right.
another place. They'll get another doctor.
But what I
But
can't
like,
understand is why are they worried about midwives? Come on. We don't make the same salary, not even close. We don't have the same scope of practice for all the things that people need. It's a very small it's a very small window of connections.
there's a lot of ways to interpret that. I mean, and I'm not in those meetings. I'm not shaking hands with those people much. I can't tell
Yeah.
you how they're personally feeling, but I
Yeah.
can tell you from a strategic point of view, if there aren't a lot of you, it sounds like an ecosystem ripe for control.
Yeah.
The second thing I would think of is if there aren't a lot of you, there aren't that many competitors. So if in a 20-mile radius I can knock out 80% of my competitors, that sounds like free money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another way to think about it would be, are you a nurse or are you a doctor? What a great question. You're
Are
something
you
in between.
neither?
Yeah, right. You're something in between, right? So,
Yeah.
so if we're, do we care about nurse non-competes? Not as much. Do we care about
Not
doctor
at all.
competes? Like, so what's in between?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that results in a lot of the things that midwives deal with is, well, they're a bit like higher in the chain than your standard nurse, but they're lower in the chain than your standard physician. So shrug, we'll just give them something in between on everything.
Yeah.
And
Or
there's not a lot.
they'll just copy the physician contract like one we did a few days
Oh,
ago and say you're part of the AMA, their standards, their code of ethics. You have to get
That's what I
a
was.
medical license from the state. They just copy paste, man.
Yeah, flops
Denise.
back. There's not a lot.
Denise, do you have any questions from things that you can recall or
um, I'm, you caught me off guard there because I've been
that's all
just
right.
so like listening to all this.
Yeah.
I
There's
think,
some go ahead.
mm, I think, in addition to like the restrictive covenants, I think the thing that always throws me a little bit is, the things that are not in the contract that they then are able to enforce, or the things that are not written as addendums or appendices. Are there
Mm-hmm.
things that you have commonly seen, or that people come across that they then have to address later because they didn't receive the full package?
I think the general words for those are like policies and practices. That's generally what it gets called in the agreement. Um, I don't get a lot of the feedback 2 years later portion of the advising part, so I can't give you the best answer. But I mean, it's pretty easy to predict in some. Hmm,
Like
I
if
would
they're not
say
part of a contract, I mean, if they don't reference it in the contract, but it's part of their system.
Their
right.
policies
Well,
and procedures.
right, you're agreeing to follow their policies and procedures,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so, what you're in the contract, what it'll say is something like you agree to follow the policies and procedures
Right.
of Greenridge, and Greenridge's policies and procedures may be changed at will by the
Right.
whoever at Greenridge. And for so long as you are here, you will do that. Otherwise, this will happen. Or it will be connected to the termination part. So, what they've done is they've made it a condition of the
Right.
job. You have to follow whatever these things are, whatever they may be. Otherwise, we can fire you. That's part of what makes it binding. The other part about what makes it binding is almost all these agreements are at will anyway.
Yes. There you
So
go.
even if like it wasn't binding in like some magical world like that, they could still just, get rid of you in, 30, 60, 90, 120 days, 180 I've seen, which blew
Yeah.
my mind.
Yeah.
So then would you recommend, similar to the malpractice insurance policy, to request those at the same time the contract is given?
Yeah, just request. I mean, frankly, having not read 300 of those, like I've read contracts, I can't tell you what like the average thing is in there, and I can't guarantee you what it says, but most of what it says is mostly normal things
Yeah.
and policies and procedures. And sometimes there's just not. Sometimes there's random things that are not normal. You have to abide by X or Y religious important thing.
Right.
And maybe that's a deal breaker for you, maybe it's not, but you got to go find out if it's in there. And the
Yeah.
only way to do that is to ask.
Okay.
And it's one email, and you basically go, hey, I would like to see any documents that would be binding to me relevant to this agreement. For
Yeah.
instance, I would like to see my insurance. I would like to see your policies and practices you reference here. I would like to see your employee handbook. These are the SOPs for your job. It's what you're going to be
Right.
doing. In a lot of ways, those things are more what job you're going to get than the contract itself.
Correct.
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect. Absolutely. Okay. It's really those things that people don't see or ask for because they assume they're just really
Normal.
basic. But getting those surprises, I think, are, can be quite horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you to take an example, if you move to a far off island, a couple thousand miles away for religious, and then you get there and you find out it's not your speed of religious
Right.
thing, that's a lot more
Yeah.
concerning
Exactly.
than
That is a good
that's an
example.
email. That's an email to solve.
We saw one. We saw one of those recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an email to solve.
Yeah. If you had some advice for a logical way to take your contract and evaluate it, probably asking you a question that we have some bias about, but
Yeah.
look, it's like buying a car, buying a home, reading contracts. Most people don't read the fine print when we purchase things. This is a job that you're agreeing to. And a lot of people don't necessarily see the value in legal review because they need the job. We know from Denise and I talking to so many, they need the job. They need the money. They're sitting on an average of $150,000 in combined student loan debt with a very short window of making some money.
Often with a sense of urgency to just
Yeah.
take, because this is the only thing in their area.
And they're getting pressured by the recruiter, sign quickly, when we know the leverage is on their side. Take your time here.
Yeah.
What thoughts do you have about the value of legal assistance?
Well, as a lawyer, yeah, always yes. But I think that the easiest way to think about it is how much would it cost for you to go, or you don't even probably have to go to a lawyer's office, to email a lawyer and say, hey, I just got this employment agreement or this potential employment agreement, and I would like to understand what it means and take 30 minutes of your time. How much would that cost?
Okay.
And what they will tell you most commonly is either nothing, near nothing, or, if it's a particularly expensive one, $300. But that would be that would be rarer.
What kind of lawyer would they even reach out to? What type?
Well, the thing I was going to say is you'll get more than that $400 in value anyway, just because
Right.
you should be able to understand if you think about contracts the way the lawyers do, which is this covenant is worth this amount of money to you, so you're paying me this amount.
Right.
Like part of your salary is allocated to the non-compete. Part of your
Right.
salary is allocated to the non-solicitation, the moonlighting provision, the insurance, things like that. These are all exchanges of this thing. I I'm sorry, I missed your question.
That's okay. The value of legal review for these job offers. You know?
Yeah, I would keep my answer. I would do it pretty much every time. I would be seriously considering it because I truly believe you will save more money by getting it
Yeah.
reviewed than you
Yeah.
would potentially lose not doing it. If you can't get a legal review, basically what you're left with is reading it and guessing, or reading it and doing research and being right, or putting it through AI, and that's basically just reading it and guessing. Um,
Here's
that's
an
basically
example. Here's an example, Isaac. Isaac and I presented to about 30 residents at Flint, Michigan in late November, December of last year. And in the audience was an MFM faculty member. They were OB residents. And we gave a 2 hour presentation. It's very similar to the talk I give to a lot of programs around the country to their graduating senior or final semester midwife students. We did slant it towards physicians, but the MFM doctor spoke up, Isaac, when you were talking about professional malpractice insurance. And one of her colleagues, friend of hers, who's an MFM, highly trained obstetrician, was going to take another job, just move across the country, did not realize that her contract was claims made and had to come up with a $65,000 tail in 30 days in one lump sum and had to take a second mortgage out on her house.
Wow.
She had no idea.
that would be one of those things that that meeting could help with. I think literally the greatest value of the meeting, if you went and had a meeting with an attorney, is going to be them finding the things that you just don't think about
Yeah.
that are important. And because it's not the things that are imminently important, it's the things that are important when you leave or when you're
Yeah,
done or
exactly.
in 5 years after.
Exactly.
But here, a more playful version, but something I personally, as an attorney that's highly educated in intellectual property, find important
Yeah.
is these name, image, and likeness
I was
agreements
going to ask you to go there. Yeah.
that for some reason the midwifery culture has allowed to be infinite,
Yeah.
which scares everything out of me because that makes no sense ever. Um,
Say
but
more
for some,
about that. Say more about that.
so the short version of those clauses is they want to use your name, image, and likeness. I mean, and what they'll say is on our website, right? But what does that even mean? Is the first part. Are you plastered on the front page? Are you on every page? Are you just on the staff page? Those are some questions. And if I'm just on the staff page, why do you want my name, image, likeness forever? There's a question. Another is, if you can use my name, image, and likeness, can you use me as like a TV promotional person? The answer is yes, because they own your name, image, and likeness. Can they then use it 40 years later? The answer is yes, because you've perpetually given them a license to your name, image, and likeness. And do they have to pay you? The answer is no, because in the agreement you gave them for free and unlimited forever with no payment back, because when they read the contract, they'll say due consideration was given, because they'll say some slice of your salary is worth
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You've given away the right to your image and your
We
name.
we uh, we have a family member whose image is posted on a rural highway, and when we asked her if she was getting any money for using her, she said no.
That's crazy. Why are they using your image? Because it's a good one, because it has value, right? So get value from it. So generally, what I would recommend is, if there, with a lot of places, you won't be able to get them to just never. I
Yeah.
would say put a time limit on it. You can't
Yeah.
use my name and likeness after I leave, or
Right.
1 year after I leave. Or if you want to do a systemic ad campaign, if you want to do a greater ad campaign than general advertising, these words are fine, then you have to negotiate with me terms for that ad deal.
Yeah.
And these are,
Mhm.
5 seconds to add, provide a lot of value to you. And if they're being truthful and they really only want to put your name on the website, it doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
So a lot of these clauses, if you think about it in terms of, if you're believe what it says, not what they say it says, believe what the agreement says and take what the agreement says seriously. And
Yeah.
if you believe what the agreement says and you don't think you want that possibility, change what it says.
Mm.
The whole point of negotiation is to change things you're uncomfortable with. There's a huge cultural problem in America that contract attorneys are absolutely, it breaks brains constantly. It's the thing we most complain about. The whole point of the negotiation term is to negotiate. Things will change. Things will change for the better of both sides or the worse for both sides. And let me tell you, these contracts are sometimes written so badly, I'm not sure they know what they're saying.
There you
So,
go. We say that a lot.
so when they come in and they've got, the headers are wrong and the section
Yeah.
notes are wrong because they copied and pasted it from a 15-year-old physician agreement. And what they really want is they want a physician's name, image, and likeness because that's what they're really advertising for. Things like that.
Yeah.
They might not even know it's there.
That's right.
It's worth asking because it has value to you. Every single clause has value to either in both party, either plus or minus or something in the middle.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, don't sign it.
So,
Or if you
Isaac,
don't understand it, right? If you don't
Yeah,
understand it, clarify it.
honestly,
there
you
was
can
a
still sign
time
it.
there was a time when you were in your negotiation class in law school, and you know that I took the Harvard negotiation course, and we were talking a lot about similar videos like Chris
Mhm,
Voss and the guy
mhm,
behind me, William Murray. Do you have
mhm.
some negotiation strategies and techniques that you could impart some wisdom on very terrified midwives who don't negotiate often?
I better resources for that would be the people and things you just mentioned. But my some takeaways that I would give to people is your negotiation style is personal to you.
Yeah.
Are you conflict averse or not is a really big
Mm.
question.
Yeah.
If your brain can handle disagreement in person and still analytically go through all your various options, that's a way to do it. If you can't, send emails back and forth for a month. Maybe that's the way that you best negotiate. Um, Advice generally, um, don't agree too early
Yeah.
would be one. Allow yourself to sit on things after you've said them or
Yeah.
after they've been agreed to. Another thing would be, try and tell where people's focus is. What's important to you? What's important to them? And try to keep the negotiation, um, calm and kind are words that
Yeah.
come to mind, but really
Yeah.
cooperative is the best word, because when negotiation devolves into arguing or to accusing people of abuse, like,
Yeah.
that's why I really push back. Anytime somebody says, oh, this non-compete is horrendous, or this, non-solicitation is unacceptable, it could legally be that, maybe, but when you sign it, what you're saying is, I agree that this is reasonable, and really take a look at it, and
Yeah.
really, before you sign it, say, I believe that this is reasonable. And if you don't sign it, and tell them why.
Yes.
Because oftentimes, if you tell somebody why you don't like it and you're reasonable in your
Right.
why, like NIL
Right.
deals, you want them to have your likeness forever. And they'll go, oh,
Yeah.
but we want you on the website. Oh, you can have it while I'm here.
Yeah.
Done. And most oftentimes that'll work. When you
Mhm.
find that people really care about, like, the employer cares about. Find the things that you really care about and say, oh, you
Yeah.
want this? I want this.
One of the best
That's a really good
examples I
point.
can give about bringing these things up is often they're old offers,
Yeah.
recycled. The
Hmm.
people who are offering them, the recruiters, don't even understand them. And there was a case that happened a couple years ago now where a new graduate had been in one clinical site with a seasoned midwife that the community loved in a small town. And we found that it was a claims made and they had to pay tail. This is a
Hmm.
hospital who you think would be a self insured trust, but whatever. And we suggested to her that she highlight that this could be a concern and why. They took it back to risk management, who had no idea that that was going on, and they changed the policy for every APP in their hospital system.
Ah, very good.
The wonders of communication.
Exactly. I mean, don't be afraid to talk about what you, as we say, want them to verify, clarify, and modify.
The I think half the conversations I have about midwifery and the advocacy of maternal health come down to communication problems.
Yeah.
What is a midwife? That's a
Yes.
communication problem.
Yes.
That's
You
Really,
think?
if I, having been involved in this conversation my whole life, cannot tell you by rote an exact definition legally of a midwife as a lawyer, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
a communication problem, a systemic communication.
Yeah.
But I see it all the time, especially in health industries or service industries. There's this communication problem where you go, I would like to help people, and that's what you're offering, and whoever you're going to is supposed to be assisting you and helping people. No, as a business that's making
Yes.
money
There you
off
go.
of off of you helping people. So
Right.
you're
right.
still helping people and they're trying to make money off of that whole scenario,
Right.
right? So for this moment, you may for the rest of your career with that hospital, be working as a team to promote the general health and welfare of the surrounding area and our constituency. But at that moment, you are a business person making a deal with a much more prioritized business system that is not aware of you personally.
There you
At
go.
that, they don't know you exist,
No,
even
they
if
don't.
they've offered you a job.
They don't.
That's it's crazy. You don't exist until you've signed. Then you're part of the organism. Then they care. So
Maybe.
if they care,
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
but
If they
hopefully,
will at any
yeah,
point.
you would think that if entities are people, that the aspects of those people would be cared for, but that real life too.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but before you are part of them, you are not part of them, and
Yeah.
they're not looking out for your best interest. You're there to look out for your best interest.
Yeah.
And so if you ask questions, like you said, these recruiters may not know what they're offering. Now,
Right.
part of what they may not know what they're offering is ignorance of literally what they're offering. Like you said, they don't know what's in the agreement. They're just sending it out because they were told by somebody else to send it out.
Right.
So that's one way to shake everything up. Another is they
Yeah.
don't know what they're sending because they're not a lawyer.
Yeah.
Because they're not. They're an
Yeah.
HR person.
Yeah.
They're a compliance person. They're not there to interpret rules. They're there to execute them.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
Like that's not their gig.
Yeah.
So they may not know exactly what they're offering, and the bar to figure out what it is generally kind of low. If you go back to AI, if an AI can tell you what a non-compete is,
Yeah.
an AI can take apart a non-compete and say how many miles,
Yeah.
what it's stopping, and how many years. If it's a half decent AI, I mean, AI is way better than enough to do that. But the determination of whether something is good or not, the AI has
Yeah.
absolutely no cognizance of what good or bad is,
Yeah.
but
Mm,
also what good or bad would be for you in your particular or general
right.
scenario.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind that most of the AI that the general populace is using is from data that's from years ago anyway.
Mm,
Yeah.
So even if it could do this thing, it wouldn't do a good job.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the person this morning sure learned that. I mean, it was eye-opening, and I'm telling you, Denise, she was so well prepared.
Wow.
Like I was blown away by her analysis of the offer, and I went first because she asked me to, and she's like, "Yeah, it was
Okay.
interesting."
Just to
Well, we're
add
getting close. We're getting close, Isaac, to how we wrap things up with a call to action. Unless Denise, a question's popped up in your mind, or Isaac, you have another area you want to make sure you highlight.
I just wanted to slip into the AI conversation that I have found, at least 20 agreements with invisible white letters in the background that you can't see as a person. And if you're going through it and highlighting, you can't see. But if you put it in AI, it completely changes how the AI reads it because the AI can read those invisible background white letters. So just know that
What?
there are
Wait,
some.
what does that mean?
Okay, so when you type on a Word document, the color of the letters is, depending on if you're dark mode or not, but let's just say you're in normal mode, it's black letters. You can then change it to whatever color you want. That's the magic of Word. Imagine you write a non-disparagement agreement. You cannot talk about XYZ for X amount of years, yada, yada, yada. And then you highlight that whole thing and you turn it white. And then you right click it and you say send it back. Okay, now that's in the background of your Word document. Then you take the actual agreement, all 20 whatever pages of it, and then you go Control V, and then that whole agreement's in there. But the non disparagement in white letters is still in the background, hiding.
What the heck? Mind blown. I don't even still, I don't think I can grasp it, but that sounds like weird magic demon stuff.
Well, it's just so you can't see it, but the AI can see it. So when the
Mm.
AI is analyzing it, the AI will go, "Oh, there's a non disparagement here," but there's not
Wow.
because you can't agree to something you can't see.
Exactly.
There's exceptions to that, which are called click wraps, and we already discussed, which is the like end user license agreements when you go onto a website and they say click this to accept, and we could have a 5 hour discussion about the contractual implications and how many people in the world have ever read those, which I guarantee you is less than 100 because I know somebody who's read 24 of these as a contracts professor, and she went, I never want to read any of these again.
Right.
And
So,
oh
so
my
what you're
God.
saying is beware of AI messing with the contracts.
No, beware of people messing with AI because that's not the AI messing up. The AI is reading the thing you give it. That's all it's doing. You've given it
Mm.
a thing, and it just understands more than what you can see. It doesn't under
Many
it.
layers deep.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It doesn't read the document that you see.
Got
It
it.
reads the document.
Got it.
And
Got it.
if
Mm.
it
Got it.
includes the non-disparagement section in white, it doesn't care what color
Yeah.
it is. It
Yeah.
doesn't care if you can see it. It just reads it and says it. So we would have these
A
contracts that would have,
misunderstanding.
yeah, but it would have every key word,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I'm
it
following
would
you
have
now.
like non-compete as a keyword, non-disparagement as a
Yeah.
keyword, indemnification, harmless, insurance, malpractice. We just have all these keywords
Yeah.
spanned
Yeah.
everywhere to influence how the AI would understand or articulate the
Yeah.
agreement.
You just said
Okay.
one more clause, Denise, that a lot of people get confused on. Can you kind of concisely talk about hold harmless clauses?
Indemnification.
Yeah.
Indemnification, I'm just going to look up the actual for sure definition to make
Yeah.
sure that I can get it in simple terms because it's a little
Yeah.
hard to.
Because this is events that happen beyond your professional malpractice insurance.
It is one of the concepts that took me forever to understand.
So part of the problem is I personally don't think in all of the contracts I've read, more than like five of these contracts actually understand indemnification anyway. They just say some words,
Yeah.
and those words are generally you agree to hold, Green Ridge. Once again, I'm just saying Green Ridge is a
Yeah.
token. Um, you agree to hold Green Ridge harmless for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And that X, Y, and Z is generally prior acts, anything you've done maliciously, and That's what they're trying to protect themselves from. But indemnification, generally, to go back to the original question, means you agree to not go after them for compensation for damages or losses they've incurred related to a specific accident, incident, event, occurrence, however you want to say it. But you're basically taking a category of occurrence and saying you can't go out. The employer is saying you cannot cross sue or otherwise try and hold me liable for this specific thing.
Let me
So
give
it's
an example. Let me give an
yeah.
example. I'm seeing Denise in the exam room, and I have a fresh hot cup of steaming coffee on the countertop, and I knock it over with my elbow, and it spills all over her and burns her skin.
Right.
And then she
So
slips and falls getting off the exam table.
that's a very complicated hypothetical.
Very bad day.
I would say, and I'm not meaning to make it a thing, but it depends is so real here.
Yeah. But it's in that line. It's in that lane of, are they responsible?
Well, welcome to the land of it depends.
Yeah.
So, like,
Jayco
really,
would say, don't bring your coffee in there.
Probably that is probably an acceptable answer in some place. That would, matter of fact, that may be how they would decide liability. Is it the custom? But this is a serious answer. Is it the custom of the profession to never have hot liquids in whatever room? And if that is true, if that's a generally accepted custom, then you could be held to be seen as more negligent than maybe you otherwise would think you would be. But indemnity is they have to say specifically what they're indemnifying.
Yeah. Which they
Should
don't.
Well, they do. They're just bad at it. Right. So they give like vague categories, right? Which is not great for the employee and it's fine for the employer. So they say intentional malicious acts, right? What does that mean? Well, intentional is pretty intuitive. You wanted or decided or should have known not to do this thing. Malicious.
You threw coffee on me.
Well, yeah, that's different than but that's elbow. A very good example. If your elbow accidentally hit it, that's not intentional. So already it's not counting. But let's say intentional isn't there. Let's just say it's malicious acts. Okay, so malicious, what's the definition of that? Malicious would mean, does that mean malice aforethought? Does that mean you had to think beforehand, oh, this would hurt them, bam? Or does that mean you were fine with them being hurt? Does that mean you were so negligent that you should have thought they would have been hurt? You have to find the definition. And one way to find the definition is to, once again, simply ask. And another is to get an attorney. And the third way is to look it up on things like Wexlaw or some sort of legal dictionary that will help you contemplate and understand, or to find examples on free legal websites of what that means. And that really is the only way. When you go through like 5, 10 examples of what do these words mean, then you will actually understand what it says. And it's worth taking the 10, 20 minutes to go, what does this indemnity clause mean? There are websites that will help you for free. It's not secret information, but
maybe Isaac, you can give us some of your top recommended, like dictionary, and those that we can put, not today, but we'll put up on the Buzzsprout website link to this episode. Because I think, Denise, that's a resource we have not suggested before, and it's a great idea.
Yeah,
I can tell you right now, the one I would generally, once again, everything is it depends, because in every state things change.
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing to remember, especially for the medical profession. In every single state, things can change.
Yeah.
So any answer you get about California law is more than likely not applicable to Kansas or Missouri or Nebraska. So you really need to find, if you're looking for interpretations of what words mean or like how it plays out, you need to find more state-specific examples. But if you want general ones, it's law.cornell.edu. It's called Wexlaw. It's free. And basically they have all of their little many attorneys
Yeah.
contribute when it's a legal dictionary.
Cool. That's great.
Thank you, Isaac.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. We're going to go to the call to action. And Isaac, we usually ask our guests to give the listeners something you really hope they would consider, maybe walk away with, or um, seek out more information on around the topic.
I think the thing to keep in mind is all of it sort of points back to you're making an agreement with another entity. You are yourself a business person during this time, and they are a business, and
Yep.
they're trying to acquire something from you, and you're trying to acquire something from them. That is a very unemotional
Yep.
time in terms of what's practically happening, but it is the most emotional time in terms of the person.
Yeah.
So, getting another person to read it, whether they're legally educated or not, is generally not a bad thing ever. Maybe they'll find things you do or don't like. Maybe they'll be mad about things that you're not mad about and you'll learn something. But having a ready, going in ready and willing and with things written out to
Yep.
negotiate on and finding what your bottom line is. If they're not paying your insurance, maybe don't take the job. If the insurance clause says we can decide later that we won't pay for your insurance, maybe not take the job.
Yeah.
If there's an NIL and you feel uncomfortable with them having your name forever, ask for it to be changed. That is the time. Do not interpret blanket good faith on entities that do not appreciate you or know you exist yet. There is no personal, and even later, if you've worked there for 10 years, there is no personal relationship with the entity. Green
Yeah.
Ridge is more than the individual people in it, and Green Ridge is not there to make the best deal for you. That's what you're there for. So go in with those things in mind. If you have questions, ask them. Don't be embarrassed because that's the whole point.
Right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't do these things. Otherwise, they would just send them by email and say, you accept or not. We'll see you in 10 days if you do.
Yeah.
The whole point of the negotiation process is you find the things you care about, you find the things they care about, and then you argue over finding a middle ground to where
Yep.
everybody's the least unhappy, but
Great.
everybody's kind of unhappy. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Denise, do you want to go next or do you want me to?
Go for it, Ginger.
Okay. I would say to really, first of all, listen to this more than once. And secondly, we have a lot of people who ask, how fast can you get this done? Or I have to sign in 2 days. And our response is, this is not a pot and pan sales deal at the front door. Here
Yes.
today, deal here today, gone tomorrow. This is an opportunity for you to buy yourself some time and understand that it will take time to think about it, maybe have somebody else reviewing it, as Isaac's saying, to think about the points that you want to bring up, to talk to them about, to rehearse this before you actually do it. And to feel rushed is a rapid sale that is a big red flag to me.
I should have gone before you, Ginger, because that's very similar to what I was going to say. So I'm going to make mine short. And two things that really kind of came out of just listening to Isaac was asking yourself or telling yourself, I believe this is reasonable. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't seem reasonable, be fair to yourself. Like if it smells like poop, it's probably poop. And the other thing is, be the same advocate for yourself as you would be for your patients. Like
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
okay to ask. It's frightening at times. But if you don't ask, you won't know maybe how to understand what they're writing or how it will affect you. So be your own advocate. Yeah, that's my.
If I could glue those together and put a gold star on it, I would say you are willingly signing away some of your oftentimes constitutional rights.
Yeah.
For years. That sounds pretty serious.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's true.
And oftentimes there is no one but you advocating for you.
Yep.
Yep.
So
You are your own best advocate.
you're your only advocate. So
Well,
in
true.
any of these agreements, you're signing away your right to a jury trial.
Yeah.
Many wars have been fought over the right to a jury trial. You're signing away your First Amendment freedom of speech. Wars have been fought over your freedom of speech.
Right.
So just keep in mind what you're signing away when you're doing it, and take it seriously.
Yeah.
I feel like I was a good student, Isaac. Thank you.
I will also add, we have a lot of free webinars on our YouTube channel about many of the issues in isolation that Isaac's talked about, and others as well, that you can find by searching around the Grow Midwives YouTube channel. I think we're going to wrap it up, Denise, by talking about our next podcast after Isaac, which will be visiting with Dr. Liz Munoz, a midwife in the state of Alabama, who has been involved with TEMA, a federal grant that came to 15 states to the tune of $17 million, now in year 2, and how Liz has sort of woven her way into those conversations as a midwife, and you and I and many other midwives in the other states can't get anybody to answer us at all. So it'll be a fun conversation about the value and importance of advocating for midwifery
and being at the table.
And being at the table. Yeah. It's nobody's going to speak for us except ourselves. So Isaac, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Isaac.
It was great. We enjoyed having you, and we look forward to our next podcast, Denise.
Yes. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, taking the time to learn and be your own advocate.
See you later.
Bye now.